So I'm going to do a couple of activities with you during this time period. And let me just check one other. Oh yeah, we're not doing this is fine. So we have some time ahead of us to think about a number of the concepts that we learned earlier, but I also want to do an activity with you. I call it the barcode activity. Let me grab my... And I want you to have a piece of paper out and a pen, like have your notes ready. I'm not collecting this, but I want you to be able to take some notes. So I'm going to pretend, I'm holding on to my phone, because I'm going to pretend that I have a special app on my phone. And my app is a little barcode app. Okay? Now, we're going to imagine that you all are my students at any level, in any classroom, anywhere, of any size. And right now, before I get into my barcode app, I would like you all on your piece of papers to write down one thing that you feel sometimes makes you feel a little different from the norm. Now, you don't ever have to share these with anybody. You may if you choose. We can do some sharing. You are never obligated to share anything. If you're not even comfortable writing it down, you can think of it in your head. But if you write it down, we can remember it and talk about it a little bit. One thing that makes you different sometimes from somebody else, and this could be anything, and it could be good or bad or in between or nothing. For example, the fact that I've adopted some children might make me, it doesn't mean nobody ever has, it just means it's a little different from the normal everyday. It might be that I am different from you all because I'm American and you're Indian. So I can think of lots of things for myself, right? Just something that you feel makes you different. It might be an identity thing. It might be something you do or a hobby. It might be something that you struggle with. It could be anything at all. So just sit for a minute and think about something that you feel sometimes makes you feel a little different from the norm. What might make you feel sometimes that you're a little bit different from others that are around you? Just take a minute. Just take a moment. It could be a unique skill. It could be a birthmark you have. It could be a challenge you face. It could be anything at all. Okay, did everybody raise your hand if you thought of something. Raise your hand if you did not think of anything. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next one. The next one is, think of something that is a strength or a gift or a talent that you have. Something that you either do well or that is part of you, that is a strength, a talent, a gift, a positive something. It could be a trait, it could be an action, it could be something, a skill, a knowledge base. What is something that is a strength that you have? Jot it down if you can think of something that's a strength or a gift or a talent. Raise your hand if you thought of something that you have that's a strength or a gift or a talent. Is there anybody who did you not think of one? Okay, I want you to phone a friend there. See if somebody knows of something that you do that you are, or that you're. What could you tell her that she has for a strength for herself? A very
clandestinely,
existence,
energy about her.
energy.
That,
So, oh, got clandestine energy about you.
Like something like, she has a very commanding presence.
A commanding presence. So she has a strong presence. Is that something you agree with?
Maybe.
Okay. You agree with it enough that you could write it down?
I might think of something.
Okay, go ahead and think of something. Think of a strength or a gift or a talent. What do you think you do well? Anything at all. Is there anybody else who couldn't think of a positive for themselves? All right, we got something written down there. And now the last thing, I want you to think of something that is a challenge or a struggle or a deficit or something that you find very challenging for yourself. And again, it could be something that you do or that you are or that you have. It could be anything. And it may even repeat from something else that you've written down. But try to think of something that is a challenge or a difficulty that you face or that you have. Did you all think of something that's a challenge or a struggle or a difficulty? Is there anybody who could not think of one? Did you have an easier time thinking of a difficulty than a strength? I'm just curious. Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Okay. All right, now it's time for me to get my barcode machine out, okay? Now you all are my students, and every single one of you thought of something that makes you feel a little different from the norm. You all thought of a challenge, and you all thought of a strength that you have, okay? I have no idea what those things are. But I am now going to, boop, 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 beep, boop, boop. I'm now going to set my little barcode app. And now I'm going to walk around them. When I've set it, I can set it for anything I want to set it for. And right now I'm setting it for the thing that makes you feel a little different. Just that. I've just got it set. Boop, 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 just for that. And now I'm going to come through and I'm going to scan you as a barcode. I'm being filmed over there. Okay? Right there. We make sure everybody's included. All right. Now on my little app, I can see everybody's thing that makes them feel different. And that's all I have for information, is the only thing that makes. Now I would like some of you to be sharing out, and it's okay if you do not want to share out. Can somebody share something that makes you feel different from the norm sometimes? Again, it could be anything, good, bad, or in between. Anybody want to share what you wrote down or thought about? Yeah.
I don't give up.
You don't give up. And that sometimes is different from people around you. So that makes you kind of a unique person in the fact. So that's what my barcode says. You don't give up. Who else has something that makes them feel different from the norm sometimes? Yes.
I think my ability to manage my negative emotions very well than people around me.
You can manage your negative emotions quite well and sometimes better than other people that are around you. Yep, good. That's on my list. What else?
I have a nature of helping everybody, no matter if they are my enemies or they don't like me, but I still go forward.
Yep.
And they are in the need of help.
And they are, so you are an Uber helper.
Yeah.
All right. And so that can be both good and bad, but we've got that right here on our list. Who else has something that makes you feel different sometimes?
I have a dark pink mole on my right leg.
You have a mole, did you say? A dark?
Pink mole.
A dark pink mole on your leg. Oh, yep, that's for sure. She sure does. It's barcoded in, okay? Do you hide that mole sometimes, or do you, or?
Definitely gets hidden.
It gets hidden anyway, yep. Do you ever worry if it's showing? No, it doesn't bother you. It's fine, okay, all right. Anybody else want to share one? Yes?
I'm learning 2 foreign languages,
You're learning 2 foreign languages. What are they?
Spanish and Korean.
Very nice. Spanish and Korean? Those are very different languages. That makes you very unique for sure. Yes, excellent. What else? I saw a hand up over here. Yes?
I have a birthmark shaped like a map.
Shaped like a map. A map of what? Do you know? Oh, a state. That's really wonderful. So you have a very unique birthmark. That does make you unique for sure. Did you have your hand up?
I have multiple tattoos.
You have
Multiple tattoos.
multiple tattoos. That does probably make you unique. And back home, you'd be right in with the crowd. Everyone. In fact, everybody's saying, why don't I get one? I've got to think about that. Yeah, that's a good one. Tell me your favorite. Okay, okay. You're not sure which one? Okay. Can you describe one of them to me? Okay, that's good. What is that? What is that a? The puppy. Very nice. Okay, a tattoo of a puppy. Love it. All right. So we all have something that makes us feel different. And sometimes those things that make us feel different can make us feel very self-conscious, but sometimes they don't. So a mole might make us feel self-conscious, or being overly helpful where maybe that's, or maybe learning 2 languages makes us feel proud. Or maybe it's not something we want to brag about because we know that everybody's going to think we're bragging, right? Or so whatever it is that makes us feel different, I've got this whole list in front of me, and that's the only thing I set my barcode for, okay? And now I'm going to reset my barcode, and we're going to pretend that you're any class of students. You could be grade 3, it could be 10th grade, it could be college, and you're coming in the door, and at the beginning of the day, now I have to reset. Boop, 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 boop. Now I've reset, and this time the only thing I'm looking at are your strengths, the good, positive, the thing that you think is just a very good strength and ability that you have. So boop, boop, boop. And as you come in through the door, I kind of just go boop, 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 boop. Okay? And what do we share out for that? What are some of the things that you have for strengths? Can you people share some of your strengths? These should be fun that you could share, right? Yeah.
I dance.
You dance. Yay! I can't dance. I trip over my own shadow. So that is a really great skill to have. What else? Yes?
I can listen to others, like whatever they have to say. I can listen to them for
For hours. You're a good listener. That is a great skill. And sure enough, boop, 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 good listener. That is fantastic. Good listener, good dancer. What else?
I quickly believe others.
You believe others? Is that what you said?
Very quickly.
Very quickly believe others. So you are trustful. You are trustful. And you believe that others are trustworthy. So that's a great thing. You have a very positive energy towards believing others. Boop, boop.
I trust my potentials, very much.
I
trust my potentials.
You,
I can do
you trust your own potential. You have that feeling of self-confidence, self-efficacy, and you trust your potential. That is fantastic. Who else has something positive to share?
Being empathetic, and I also think I'm adaptable. I quickly adapt things around me.
Yeah, and what was the first one you said?
Empathetic.
Empathetic. Okay, sorry. I said so. Empathetic, and you can adapt very well to things around you. So very adaptable. Yes, that's excellent on my list.
I like to see only the positives in a situation or people. I look at the positives.
See the positives. So now I've got this class, and all I set it for was this. Now you all come into my classroom. I cannot tell you how excited I am. I have got the best class anywhere. Look at this. I've got a dancer. I've got someone who's empathetic. I've got somebody who is very flexible. I've got somebody who can listen. I am so glad to have a listener in my classroom. So I see this positive, and what I see in every single one of you is that, oh my gosh, my barcode machine I hit the jackpot. I have got the best group that ever existed. I can't even believe I have such talent in this room. Okay, ready? One last time. Boop, 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 boop. Now I'm setting it to be the challenge or the difficulty or the struggle that you have, okay? And now again, you're coming into my classroom. I don't know you. And again, I go around. Boop, 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 boop. And this time, it's your challenges or your struggles. Who'd like to share something out? Yes?
Mingling in a crowd or a group.
You?
Mingling?
Mingling. It's very hard to mingle in a crowd or a group. Oh, you would think I would be fine with that, but I also know that's a tough one. So a hard time to kind of get to know and mingle in a group.
So me as a teacher, I'm facing this challenge right now that I'm not that harsh to students. Like it's really hard for me to criticize their work.
Yes.
Giving them redos.
Right?
I can do to a point, but then they're puppy face and I'm like.
Yes, okay. So you feel like maybe your empathy and responsiveness could backfire on you. So maybe you need to toughen up a little. But I don't know if that's necessarily, it could be a weakness and a strength. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, other challenges or struggles? Social interaction. So again, kind of that sense of maybe not feeling that you can always just fit in easily. Yeah? What else? Difficulty initiating conversations. Oh, this group is a really shy, quiet group that's having trouble with social interactions. Wow, that's a bummer because I had a lot planned. Yep. can be condescending sometimes. I do not want that person in my class. Wowee. Last thing I need. What else? I see a hand up over here.
I do not have a filter. Like when I speak, I do things.
No filter. Wow, she just says whatever she thinks. Oh, that's going to be a problem. Because I don't want to hear all those thoughts. Okay, what else?
I'm not good at technicalities, which has a lot of numerical steps. I start losing track when it's
Losing track of numerical steps. There's too much to keep in mind and too much. Oh, wow, that's going to be a problem. Because I don't know, I have some exercises that's going to be a big problem for. So now I'm looking at this. This is just terrible. I'm going to have to talk to my colleagues about this now. I think I picked the wrong profession. This is really terrible. I've got this group that's just a mess. They're just a mess. They just don't, oh boy. How am I ever going to bring this group together? What am I going to do? Well, I don't know. I'm going to have to just do what I can. So here's the thing about that. Now I'm going to reset, boop, 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 and this time it gets everything. I've collected all of those things from everybody. And that means that I've got a very complex set of human beings in front of me. Now here's the thing that I want to note, and I'm going to put up another slide that I'm going to work on kind of with you, and we'll see how that goes. But here's the bottom line. Every single one of you in this room, and I've done this exercise dozens of times over many years. And every time I've done this exercise, every person in the room, whether there's 200 or 10, have been able to think of something good, a strength, something challenging, that's a challenge, and something that makes them feel different from the norm. Now, in the case that there was somebody who felt they couldn't think of a good thing, it's harder sometimes to think of a good thing than a negative thing, for lots of reasons. But notice that I kept working with it, right? And one of the things I said was, could you ask a friend about that thing, right? So I'm using a strategy that says, I believe that this person has many, many strengths that she might be able to develop and think of on her own, but she might also need some support, some scaffolded supports to think of, okay? Interestingly, we usually don't have much trouble coming up with something we feel that we have as a challenge or a difficulty or a disability or whatever. I will tell you, I can think of a lot. In India, I fall a lot, and I think it's because I'm not used to walking on uneven surfaces. And I have scars on my knees. And so I feel actually feel a little bit disabled. Between that and my eyes, I feel like, why can I not walk, right? Like, isn't that kind of a basic skill? And the other one is I'm very directionally challenged. My kids tease me all the time. Even my blind daughter is more directional than I am, okay? And so she's always saying, Mom, you really shouldn't be depending on a blind kid for your directions places. And I always say, you know more than I do, you know? I remember the time she said, I got lost in this mall or I was driving, and I said, I don't know how to get out of here. And she said, go down. And I literally said to her, I don't understand what you're saying. What is down? And she said, Mom, you know the word down. It means go that way. And she said, I'm blind and I know what down is. So, I was so nervous about getting my way out of there that I couldn't even hear. Like, I was like, what's down? I don't know, what's down? And then I said, how do I know which direction is down? Just look at the road. The one that goes down is where we want to go. That's how directionally challenged I am. And I do feel it. I feel it I laugh, but I also have been very frustrated with that before. I get very worried about getting lost. Thank goodness for technology that helps me a lot with that. But so we all have challenges, okay? We all have gifts and we all have things that make us feel different. And sometimes those things that make us feel different make us feel special different. But sometimes those things that make us feel different make us feel a little worried different, okay? Sometimes what makes us feel different could be something that other people are going to judge or look at or make us feel a little weird about, okay? Sometimes they're going to ask us a question that doesn't settle with us well. Sometimes it's something that we feel very proud of, but we also don't want to necessarily be brought out as targeted for that in some way, right? So we have to be careful even about the things we feel particularly proud of or glad about, okay? So the point that I'm making is this. It doesn't matter who we are. As human beings, because we are human, we have all of those things in us all the time. So when we are in the education field, what we need to understand is that we have a barcode machine, metaphorically, remember I told you I'm using a lot of metaphors today, our barcode machine doesn't always let us know everything for every student, but we can get to know that over time. We can do exercises like the one I just did, but there are many, many exercises we can do to get to know people. The bottom line is this: there's nobody that is going to be enough. Very rarely, I would say, I don't, again, absolutes we have to be careful of. Very rarely are we going to have somebody who won't sometimes feel a little different. Very rarely. I mean, I feel different a lot in India. Am I dressed okay? Do I know how to, the sari thing, has thrown me. Eating with my hands. I think, are people looking at me? Are people watching me? Are people judging whether I'm doing this right or not? Am I taking too much? Am I taking too little? Am I making more of a mess than everybody else? All sorts of things that make me feel like maybe the bottom line is I don't think people really care, like, just eat your food. Okay, it's really not a problem. But I get worried, okay, about those things. So all of us as human beings, and I feel I'm a competent person. I feel like I've achieved a lot, and yet there's so little I know sometimes about things. So when I look at my zone of proximal development based on any given skill, it goes up and down. Maybe I need some scaffolded support. Even when I was offered food yesterday, I said, do I take this? Is this about right? Even so, I'm asking those questions, right? So you're scaffolding. Yes, take a little of that. Yes, sure, have this. This is what this is called. You don't have to explain that to everybody else. Everybody else knows. But you explained it to me, okay? So you all are also my teachers. And that is very Vygotskian, by the way. But furthermore, it also leads us nicely into our thinking that tomorrow we're going to cover a lot of, which is about, and we're going to starting to talk about it today, about thinking about inclusivity. And when we talk about those challenges, if I'm talking about people with disability, if I'm talking about gender, race, class, caste, skin, any kind of difference or anything that would, English language learners back home, right, where we have a lot of multilingual learners, where I have that diversity in a classroom, I can either go, boop, 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 oh, no, what am I going to do? Wait, I've got a kid who, I've got a kid on the autism spectrum, I don't even think they should be in my class. Oh, no way, I've got this one, they are trouble with a capital T, right? And I can start to do that if I set my barcode to look at their deficits. But I can also set my barcode to look at their strengths, and those same people that have those deficits are the exact same people who have the strengths, because all of us do, okay? So now I'm going to try to build something that I hope I can do okay on a slide here. Let's see how I do with this. Bear with me, please bear with me. We're going to we're going to add a slide. Okay, and now, here's the way I want to think about this. I could have built this ahead of time, but I think this is fine. I'm going to capital lock, and I'm going to build slightly bigger. Okay, so what I have in front of me here is a classroom of 25 students. Okay, everybody with me on this? Now, they're all lined up in rows, and there's exactly 25 of them. And, I mean, my classroom isn't likely to necessarily be lined up this way, but let's pretend that every one of those X's represents a student. And again, remember, this applies to any age, any grade, any level, anything, all the way up through to you all, anyone, little, it doesn't matter. When I look at a classroom, and let's just take a typical of 25, and you may say that's not a realistic number in India, it's going to be 50. Okay, fine, I don't care, double it. But let's just say I've got these 25 students. Now, and remember that we don't in real life have that barcode machine. I mean, even metaphorically, I guess we do in a way, we can get to know them. But when people are just coming into the room, I can't guess that you're a dancer. I can't guess that that you get a little nervous with some, mingling with other people or social interactions. I can't necessarily guess that, you might be What was your challenge?
Challenge?
Yeah, well, oh, did you have a challenge that you shared?
That I do.
Oh, you didn't share it? Okay, sorry. But you can be
Over
over,
helping nature.
yeah, helping. I don't know that I have somebody who's a helping nature, but actually that could work at a disadvantage too, right? That could be a challenge because you might be too helping at times, right? So actually, the truth of the matter is that many of our gifts can also be our challenges, and many of our challenges can also be our greatest gifts. And I don't always wish a challenge on, I don't ever wish a challenge on anybody. I think sometimes we've lived through challenges and we say, somebody says, well, that's made you this and it's made you that. Well, sure, but I don't wish it on somebody, right? But the fact that it's been part of our river means that we accommodate it into our systems. And it makes us who we are. I am the teacher I am because of my experiences, right? So we've talked about that before. I'm the teacher I am because my children have taught me. Okay, I didn't know anything about autism until I had a child on the autism spectrum. And the interesting thing is that I was really nervous about autism. Years ago, I thought, oh, that would be so hard. Are you kidding me? The gift of that child in my life growing up is beyond understanding. It's a book unto itself. So I have learned. So every one of my experiences, I don't wish autism on my child, but I will tell you that it makes him who he is in a way that is spectacular. And I wouldn't want him to not be who he is. So that's my point, is that every person coming into the room, and by the way, I do share personal examples, and I hope you don't mind. The reason I do that is I believe that I am an integrated whole, and I also believe that all of these experiences in my river helps to formulate. So I do that very consciously. I do it very deliberately. And I do it because I believe that as, especially as a strong woman in life, I am all of these things. We are all of our identities, right? And so we bring them with us. So anyway, having said that, now I'll go back to our classroom. We have this classroom full of people. Now let's suppose that there is this group up here that really is pretty together. They have like really nothing that, nothing really gets in the way. Whoops, that's on capital locks. Of their learning and their growth in the classroom. Now again, that could be very rare, but let's suppose somebody comes in and they're just all together. Let's say one of you is just like, I am so together, I'm rested, I'm fed, I was on time, I feel so ready to learn, I have my materials, I'm just so good. And you have like this great day. And we all have been in classrooms, we're like, if everybody could be that kid, how great would this classroom be? That's the kids that they're just fine. They're just going fine. Now, what that means is that the rest of our group, let's see if I can find the shape I need. That means, yeah, here we go. That double bracket. I don't want a double bracket. That means that this group here, all of this group then basically has this group basically has something that interferes with learning. And I'm actually going to move this up slightly so that you can see, let's see. No, that didn't do it. That didn't do it. Ah, that didn't do it. All right. All right, we'll leave it right where it is. All of these students have something, and it might be something small. It might be something that's not super major, but it's something that interferes with their learning. Remember, we only have a few of them that are like just perfectly ready to go. And that's pretty rare, and to be honest, it's pretty unusual to have even one or two, but let's just pretend. Everybody else has something. Maybe you lost your keys. Maybe yesterday I overslept from an alarm. Maybe you didn't eat what you should have eaten this morning. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep last night. Maybe you're worried about something. Maybe you woke up snuffly and you're a little bit feeling under the weather. Maybe you got into an argument with somebody and you just are really bummed out. It's kind of sitting in your head and your heart. Maybe you've got something coming up that's making you anxious. Maybe you have an appointment you're worried about. We're human, and so I bet almost all of us can think of something that could potentially get in the way of our learning, that might make us distracted, that might make us really feeling like we're not really ready to learn, okay? But again, most of us kind of can deal with that all right. All right, now we're just going to say that now we've got the next group. How do I do a copy from this? What do I do for, oh, I don't want numbers locked. Do I hit the Alt? How do I do a copy? C? Yeah, but Control. Control C, and then Control, there we go. Okay, so we're going to save these. Thank you. Okay, so now we have the next group, and the next group is here. And now we have we're going to have a situation on our hands where we now have something interfering chronically or long term. Okay, so that might be, for example, a health thing. If you break your leg, that's going to be something for a while. There might be, for children in classrooms, very often there's a new baby in the household. Again, that's a joyful thing in a lot of ways, but for a child, it can be very disruptive, and it's not going to get over tomorrow, right? If I lost my keys, or I'm worried about an appointment, or I have a test coming up, or I didn't sleep well last night, it's kind of a one-off thing. That kind of happens sometimes. But I'm talking about things now that are going to kind of linger with us. And they're just things that kind of are with us for a while. They are things that, you know, again, there's a new baby in the home, or our family dynamics have changed, or there's a divorce pending, or there's something that is an illness that's kind of lingering on, or COVID happens, right? Or so there are things that just feel like a struggle that's going to be more than just a day or two. So now when my students come in, and I have a group of students that actually have something that's going to be a little bit more long-term that I need to be aware of. Somebody with a new baby in the home is not going to get a lot of sleep, but also may feel displaced, right, as a child in that home. Or somebody who just moved to the area, maybe they just relocated, and that's a whole new thing, right? So somebody has things that are kind of chronically bothering them, okay? And now we have people who have very distinctive marked differences . And we will insert a text box here, I think is the best way to do that. Okay, now I have a handful of kids that have a difference that actually makes a difference in their lives, not just long term, but actually, let's just move that down slightly here. But actually something that is a difference that's actually kind of foundational to their identity. So not like a broken leg or that's external to them, not necessarily like a new baby that's kind of external to them, but something that's a part of their identity, that is permanent, that is there, okay? And again, it could be a chronic illness that you just always live with, always, that you don't ever get over because it's part of your life. It could be something like a birthmark that's very visible on your face. The port wine marks is what we call them in English, where we've got like the marks that are big that makes us very conscious of that. It could be something like missing a limb or missing some part of our system somewhere. It could be something like being diabetic. It doesn't have to be a health thing. It could be something like the way I look, right? It could be body build. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be something that really places me differently based on identity. It could be that I don't settle well with the gender that I was assigned at birth. It might be that I am feeling that I am in a society that's going to judge me based on, I don't know, in the Indian context, caste, or something like that. So there's something that's an intrinsic part of my being. Okay, so we have a handful of those in the classroom. And then the last category is a category that says, let me just pull that up a little bit there. And this last category, whoopsie, is the one that says that I have a difference or a distinction. Oh, I didn't, no, don't do that. Let's go to something different that is protected by laws. Now, again, for example, largely these would be our anti-discrimination laws. Now, so this last category in the US would certainly be something like disability. I told you we have a pretty strong law. It is not a perfect law, but our special ed laws guarantee certain rights and certain anti-discrimination. Discrimination laws based on race or gender. We know that those exist in many countries, and that's kind of protected by law. So I'm not allowed to say, you can't do this because you're XYZ, right? That's sort of discriminatory in a way that gets protected. But remember that some of these differences here are not necessarily protected by law, right? Having a birthmark that makes you feel different, I mean, you're not supposed to be picked on for it. I guess there are anti-bullying laws, but really there are a lot of things that can make us different and unique in our individual selves that are not protected by law per se. The reason I'm sharing, and this is where I want you to just take for a second and think about this. I also want you to know my percentages are really kind of wacky in a way, right? This is just, again, a symbol. So I'm not saying that 5 out of every 25 students has this and 10 out of every, just pretend, just bear with me. We're talking about some general categories. And if we go back to our barcoding, what this means is this. My barcode app is so good that it can give me any one of these categories at any given time. So I not only can get the barcoding from what we just did, but now, boop, 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 now I can set it to be just that last category, which is what's protected by laws. And now, now I get to know who has what we call IEP plans or 504 plans, which are both protection plans that are individual plans to help support learners. In the United States, the IEP is the individual plan for kids with disabilities. And a 504 is actually based in Section 504 laws, which means simply it's anti-discrimination, which is based in having a disability that impacts you but doesn't require unique curriculum or unique educational materials. So for example, having extended time on tests, that would be a 504 accommodation. Or being able to sit near the door and get up 4 times, that's a 504 accommodation. Or being able to leave school a little early, that's a 504 accommodation. Or having somebody who can take notes for you, that's a 504 accommodation. None of those impact the actual curriculum that I'm giving you. So that would be an IEP plan if I needed to do that. You don't need to know those differences. That's part of what I teach. The bigger thing to remember is that both of those are legally protected laws. Okay, that if you have that plan. So now I actually do get that information in the United States, and I don't know whether people do here in India or not, but I know which kids are on a plan. I have to know that as a teacher. It's a requirement for me to know it as a teacher because otherwise I could break the law. And I don't want to break the law, and I don't need to if I just know who's on what plan. But that creates another issue, which means that the only thing my barcode gets set for is this group. I don't get set for any of these others. This is actually a real thing I do know. I come into a classroom, I know it at the college level. I get notices at the beginning of each semester for my Bates students. They no longer get IEPs. They're no longer, because they're in the college system, but they do still get 504 accommodation, which is accommodation for things like extended times on testing. It's things like preferential, they may be extra time on assignments. And I do have a list of those students, and I also must follow the laws for those students, okay? So sometimes it's health. Maybe somebody has a health, diabetes, let's say, and needs to be able to access medicines or food in a way that they need to be able to do. I can't legally tell that student not to. So I get that information. I'm entitled to that information, but that is the only information I get. Think about who's in my classroom and the fact that the only information I get are the students that are actually protected by law. That means that a great proportion, and again, don't play, my statistics are crazy, but that means that a lot of my class is just coming in with the good faith that I'm going to see them for their strengths, their challenges, their differences, and that my barcode machine is going to be set to complexly understand all of them. But that's not what we get. We get the ones that either have something protected by law. Sometimes we know if there's something chronic. Somebody might say to us, oh yeah, there's a new baby in their house, or oh yeah, they're dealing with such and such a health issue right now. Or so sometimes we get that information. And sometimes we don't, and so we don't know. But if every single one of us could be any one of these people, then I think we need to understand that as teachers, our responsibility is to get to understand and know this so that we are not judging or excluding anybody on the basis of something we just didn't understand. And very often, when we have an attitude or a bias or a perception of somebody, it's often because we do not understand. Okay? And having done this exercise with you, you can now understand that any one of us could be in any of these categories at any time. At any time, okay? So when I look at my barcode and I go, oh, I've got 3 kids with plans and another 2 with chronic conditions and another one with ADHD, oh, this is gonna be really hard. I can't even believe it. This is what drives me right out of teaching. Then what I'm doing is I'm coming in with my own biases, my own ideas, my own perception that, oh, I'm never in that category. That doesn't mean me, right? It's not me that's in that category, it's somebody else. Instead of saying, I am in those categories because I'm human. So in a perfect world, we wouldn't even need anti-discrimination laws. We would just know to set our machines to be aware that we're all human. Does this all make sense? So when we set this up and think about who's in front of us in a classroom or who we're working with, we're going to move into thinking tomorrow in particular about ways that we can differentiate, ways that we can be responsive. And we have to start with that philosophy of saying that every one of our students at any time could really be in almost any of these categories. We have people that are feeling different for some reason or another. And maybe it's just that they didn't get breakfast that day. But maybe it's that they don't feel that they belong in a world that the curriculum doesn't show them, or that they don't belong in a world that sees them as capable. Okay, there are 110 things, so we just have to remember this. And what really helps us is to remember that we also can be in any of these categories at any given time. Okay? We say we're not disabled, but I would say yet. Because one thing that happens as you age is you start to become more and more like eyes start to go and hearing starts to go, and you could end up with back troubles. And there are a lot of things that start to happen. And so oftentimes I say yet, right? You may not feel that you're disabled yet. I pray that you live a long, good life where you do start to understand that, yeah, maybe there are things that go a little quirky in our bodies, right? So if it's a 10-year-old that has something quirky with their bodies, that just means that they're there and you're not yet, right? Okay. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I want us to think for a moment. I want you to turn and talk. We don't need to do a think, pair, share. We'll do a turn and talk. You can talk in small groups of 2 or 3, something like that, or 4 if you need to. Remember, everybody find a partner. and just talk about all of this that you've heard. We've done a lot of things, and we will have a Kahoot coming up in our next time, and I'm also going to talk with you a little bit about AI today. A little later on in our tutorial session, we're going to play around a little bit with AI, so we're going to do some more interactive stuff. So right now, and then I do have another activity. I still have a little bit of time? Okay, so I have an activity to back us up to review some material, but for right now, turn and talk about what are you thinking? What are you learning anything? Is something being reinforced for you? Do you have a question or a critique of it? Where are your thoughts taking you? Just turn and talk. Okay, let's do a couple of share outs, and then we're going to kind of wrap up that session, and we'll move to have a small break and do some acting activities. But let's do some sharing. So we did our turn and talk. What do people have for thoughts? And really anything. It could be a question. It could be an affirmation of what you already know. It could be something you learned. It could be anything. Somebody want to share some of what you talked about? Yeah.
We were trying to analyze the fourth point, that what could be the laws that are protecting somebody from learning in India. So we just came across one case where the student was unable to pay the fees.
Yes.
So under that, so that could be one example.
Yes. So somebody who's unable to pay the fees, that's a really interesting example, because you would put it, which one would you put it under? This one? Even lower? The last one. That is, okay, yes, exactly, right? Because no one should be kept from an education due to an inability to pay. And that's where we get, again, when we talk about purposes of education, aims of education, we talk about, does the government provide free education? And that takes us all the way back to our theorists in the US. We had Horace Mann, remember, who was talking about everyone should have a right to an education. It's the foundation of democracy. So we can't expect people to have to pay. Now, there are sometimes hidden costs to education all over the place. There may be costs for uniforms. There may be costs for transportation. There may be costs that are about, sometimes we have lab fees for certain classes that you take, right? And even in the US, to get into an upper level math class, you have to have a very expensive calculator in the United States. And so schools are required to have a bank of those calculators that students can sign out or use in the classroom, but they need to have access. You can't ever expect that somebody needs to pay money to access their education. That's a nice example of protected by law. Interestingly, I was wondering if it would also fit up where there may be a long-term chronic situation, right, where food or access to something that you need may be economically based. Because one thing we know is that low income, lower resourced kids have a harder time getting to school, they have a harder time maintaining in school, they have a harder time keeping their motivation up in school. It's not because they are less intelligent or less capable or less deserving. It is simply a matter of economics that sometimes impact other things. Health issues for where they may be living, okay? Exposure to elements that are not safe or not clean, okay? Even clean water is something we can't take for granted, okay? All right. So that's a great example of thinking about where somebody might fit in here. What else did people think about? Other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead.
I think homework should be different for everyone.
You think
Homework
should be different for everybody. Now, there is a whole entire body of research around homework, and I am glad you mentioned it. Homework. How many of you grew up in systems that expected you to do homework? Raise your hand. Okay. Was there anybody who grew up in a system that did not expect you to do homework? So homework is deeply problematic. In order to do homework, what do you need to have? You need to have, I'm sorry, I'm hearing the fans. An understanding of the topics. You have to be able to do some work independently. What else do you need to have? A stable environment, probably a quiet space. Concentration, so you need to be able to have it quiet. You might need access to resources depending on what that homework is. Somebody who, if you think of Vygotsky, somebody who can help mediate that learning at home. Really, that's so Vygotskian right there. And we don't all have that. You might need access to even a table to sit at. Resources, right? Now, it's true you could do your homework on the floor or on a cot or on somewhere else, but it's not conducive to the best kind of learning, right? We might need proper lighting. We might need AC to be able to do our homework. What we know about homework is that homework is highly affiliated with your resources at the home front. Motivation can also. Also, what jobs do you have at home? Are you going home and needing to help take care of younger siblings? Are you going home and needing to cook for the family? Are you going home and needing to do some other jobs? Okay, in the US, a lot of our low-income students are going from school and working. Not little kids. I mean, there are laws against that, but high school kids have jobs. Okay, so when are they doing that? So homework is, I'm very glad you talked about that, because really that's something I'd put in this category, right? Now, I'm not arguing, again, be careful about backing ourselves into corners. I'm not saying, do we say we don't ever give homework? Well, let's think about that for a minute. Are there ways that we could provide supports within schools for homework? So one of the things that I've done with students before is to provide my lunchtime, they can come in and work with me on homework, or after school or before school. Well, I'm not going to get this done at home. Fine, I'll see you at 7:30 tomorrow morning. Let's just have and usually when I have students stay, you know me, I'm likely to do something like a piece of candy for them or something that doesn't feel like they're being punished for it, but that they're being supported. Another thing some schools do back home is do what we call an intervention period, which is it's like a study hall, but it's very specifically geared towards getting your homework done. And so we provide that support. We might send a note home to say these are the things that are expected, but we might not grade those pieces. Like, we don't necessarily have to mark them as you didn't do, you didn't do, you didn't do, you didn't do. Maybe we just say you can do this as extra practice. There are a lot of ways that we don't need to necessarily say no homework. We might say, I taught English literature for a long time, and I would assign, let's say, 20 pages of reading. Now, what I usually would do is say to students, I will, first of all, get you started on that reading in class so that it's a little easier, you can get the voice in your head. The second thing I'll do is I'll be here at lunchtime and we can read aloud or together quietly or whatever we want. And the third thing is that after school I will also be here if you want to just come and read. So that way we could get them set up. I also made sure that if I did a reading quiz or accountability for that they had material and information in front of them to help them get through that. Now, I'm not talking about enabling, I'm talking about supporting. We're talking about that scaffolding. We're talking about the ZPD. If we throw people off the deep end, no learning happens. If they sit around in comfort zone, no learning happens, right? So I'm very glad you talked about homework, because it's not something that we had on our agenda here, and I don't ever want to forget that is part of schooling and how it happens. Again, think philosophically. We all grew up believing in homework. I sure did. When I became a teacher, I'm like, you're doing this much homework every night. And I absolutely believed it. I believed it so tightly in that hand, there was nothing that was going to keep me from letting that go. Until what? What do you think changed my mind on that? Just name anything that would have changed my opinions on that. Another professor, a colleague who says, wait a minute, what are you doing? What else might have changed my mind on that? My own experience is both as a learner who knew what it took to have homework time, when I was also kind of under-resourced and trying to find a quiet space, right? That made me think. My own experiences as a parent certainly made me think. All of a sudden I've got kids that are freaking out over homework, and I'm going, what is the matter with kids these days, right? And my own kids and I'm fighting with my kids over homework, and then I'm thinking, I don't want my relationship with my children to be fighting over homework. That's a school, and my son on the autism spectrum said to me very wisely one day, he was about 10 years old and he wasn't doing any of his homework. And he said to me one day, this work is schoolwork. Home is home. Home is my one safe place to be. And I won't do schoolwork at home. He was adamant. He was about 10 years old, adamant. He said, home is where I feel safe. And if I pull that work out, all I'm doing is bringing school into my home. And he wasn't wrong, and it changed everything I started believing and had always believed. What else might have changed my opinions? Did you?
I think you must have observed other kids who are struggling.
Observing kids, and who are the ones that notoriously every single time don't have their homework done? It's always, always, always the same two. I'm just picking on, you know this, right? Okay, you're my examples. I don't really think you're not. Okay, I just always want to, I do this all the time in my classes, and I'm thinking, please don't take offense. These two never get their homework done. Every single solitary day, they don't get their homework done. So now they're going to be graded lower, and instead of me saying, what's going on with these two, that maybe I could make it a little bit better and easier for them, now they're being punished because they're not getting their homework done. And it's never distributed evenly. It's always these two, right? I mean, every once in a while it's somebody else. It's almost always these two, right? Yeah, so all of those things really made me rethink. Thank you for the question. That is a really great question. And I want you all to think about, what do we hold so tightly? And then we have to go, whoa, maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Yeah.
So ma'am, don't you think that we need to change the definition of homework? What is being given, So
Maybe we need to change the
because
definition.
homework really mean to say that something is given just to have a recall, a revision, what you
Right.
have learned, right?
Right.
It's given in the class also by giving the assistance to the one those who are not able
Right.
to do it at home.
Right. So there are a lot of different, there's so much written about homework. And I agree with you. Maybe change the purpose, maybe change the definition, maybe change the way we expect it to be done, or where and how we expect it to be done. Maybe if we need extra resources, like if we're building posters, maybe we provide that in the school. And I'm going to tell you too, how many of you know, and you can keep this secret if you want to, but how many of you secretly, you don't have to raise your hands, know that some of that homework gets done by the parents anyway? Sometimes. Okay, just keep it secret to yourself, all right? How many of you think that maybe there are times that a parent gets a little bit overly involved in the homework? How many of you think maybe involved in projects, those science projects? Oh,
Ma'am, I would like to correct this statement. We are not sometimes many a times.
yeah. I saw it happen.
For the pre-primary kids, I have seen parents are struggling a lot to finish
Yeah, to finish it. Yeah, I've had that happen. I've seen it many times.
We have changed this, and we have a zero period.
A zero, there you go, a
And
zero
the
period.
students are asked to complete their homework in the school itself before they leave.
That's fantastic.
So the two things happen.
Two
The
things.
teacher gives the homework, students do it.
Yes.
The syllabus is done.
Yes.
And they don't carry the homework at home.
There you go. So there are ways to do it. Thank you. Perfect. That's very nice. It's not that we have to say that homework's gone in our lives. It's that we figure out a way. Maybe we don't call it homework. Maybe we call it the work that has to be done by the next time you get to class. Zero period. Time to do it in class. Well, maybe we say the last half hour, we'll just take time to get our homework done. Exactly right. There are ways to do it. So we don't have to throw it away, and we don't have to hold it so tightly. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. I wish all schools could do it like that. That's a bravo.
CBSE schools, the central board state secondary schools, they have adopted this
Good.
habit to the practice
It's
of
fantastic.
zero period.
That's
So
really
it's in the
fantastic.
day or in the last.
That's really nice. And again, back home, we tend to think of it as what we call an intervention period, but I like zero period. That works great. There go my cards. Other thoughts that people want to mention quickly, and then we'll wrap up our, yes.
Disappearing chronologically long term. Example I have that my daughter's school, she has a friend, and daily she used to come to school with her mother, dropping her mother.
Yes.
So after 2 days, she finds that the mother is not coming to school. To
Yes,
drop her.
right.
Someone else is coming. So she inquired about to the child what happened,
Yes.
and she came to know that mother died suddenly.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
Yeah.
And
So
once
2
you
days-
learn that, all of a sudden it changes everything.
Yeah, 2 days the child did not come, but the third day when the child came, she was not the same what she was.
No, no,
So
absolutely
this is a
not.
long-term,
Yeah.
would you say
Long term. That is long term for sure. So a death in the family is so traumatic, but we often just assume that after a week or whatever, people are just getting right back to it, right? We need to get ourselves inside the body and mind and soul of a child who may be facing a loss, or even ourselves. We are different people, right? It may even go all the way down to a difference that's based in your identity, because now you've lost a parent. That does never change, right? So those are the kinds of, that's a very nice example as well. But if we don't know, so the more we know about our students, the more we can think about where we fit them into this chart, and the more we can lean in, right, and be compassionate. Okay, I am going to close us out there. Is that all right? And then we have some interactive. So in terms of the recording, we are done for the day.